figure out if this is an entirely new thing that we weren't aware of before.
It feels entirely new to me, just in terms of my own experience in this, but that doesn't mean that whatever this presence is hasn't been here for a long time. This is the first time I put my attention on it. It has a very specific feel. And what's really interesting is I kept trying to get a sense of who these beings are, because there was a sentience involved. But I just kept getting something that was so tiny. It was much smaller than the microscopic level. I guess on the quantum level, you'd have to say something akin to that this is where the sentience originates from. And it creates its reality around it, creates that drone shape or that orb or whatever shape it's going for. And whatever it creates has physical presence. It's able to actually create something out of itself that's physical, and you can touch it. You could throw something at it and it would ping off the side of it. And I just found that so fascinating, and I had not encountered anything like that before. But it may be that whatever this intelligence is a part of some other intelligence that people are more familiar with, or maybe related in some way, or connected, or maybe works together with. I really have no idea. It was baffling, absolutely baffling.
And the red vortex part of it, which was really fascinating as well. You seem to describe like almost like an energy portal, and that these things would go into it and then get recycled, and then new ones would emerge, sort of. Do you have any more insight on that, of what that could possibly reflect, or what how that relates to the intelligence? I mean,
yeah. I was drawing this as a red spiral. The color red just was screaming at me. It was super important that it was red. And whatever this is, this portal, kind of feels like a portal, like a Stargate or a portal, or something that's intangible, but you can pass through it, but it's visible. It's visible, whatever this is. And it spirals, and it was going in and out of the water. And these objects would go in, and then they would get some kind of an upgrade, like learn or relearn something, pass information, get new information, I guess download and an upload kind of a thing. And then they would reemerge, and new ones would reemerge. Some would come back in and get recycled. The idea of recycling kept coming back over and over, as if when they would go inside this thing, they would cease to exist, but that teeny tiny quantum level sentience would then be given some other kind of, I don't even know what. I don't even have the words for half of this, which makes it so difficult to describe, but it would be given some other kind of body, not even a body, like a skin. The word skin kept coming out, and then whoop, it would go back out and reappear.
Yeah. And you had described them as kind of like AI, but then not AI, very definitely not AI. How would you break that down? What do you think that means?
Yeah, it really felt the sentience itself. It was a sentience. So if it were an AI, it would be a general artificial intelligence kind of thing. That the kind of artificial intelligence we have not achieved yet, or at least so they say. Who knows what's going on in the super labs?
But we were trying to get to ultimately, yeah.
Exactly, and it might be something like that, but it also felt more organic than strictly a technological AI. So if it is an AI, it's on the level of something more natural, which it's hard for me to put into words, but it wasn't a sentience like ours. It definitely felt like it could gather information and then digest it, analyze it, and then it becomes bigger in sentience. So that's why it felt like AI to me, because that's a very AI thing, gathering information, analyzing, and then it can spit out more information. That's how it felt like an AI to me. Not like a normal sentience where you really have to take time to learn something, and filter it through your own perspective. It wasn't like that. It was, these things are gathering huge amounts, like insane amounts of information. And then when they go into the spiral, the portal, then this is part of this whole recycle, relearn process. then they come out smarter. That's why it feels like AI.
It's interesting to me in reading, Peter Levenda's books and Tom DeLonge with the Secret Machine stuff, and then Tom's statements over the years. He's talked a lot about this hive mind kind of thing, it being something that the government is aware of and kind of wrestling with how to deal with. And that sort of would fit with what you're talking about. I mean, like there being some sort of collective knowledge base, and these things are updating that part of it.
Yeah, definitely kind of a Borg-like situation. That's I kept thinking, it's kind of like a Borg, just like that. You connect into the collective, and then you're infused with all of the collective's information. So definitely hive mind-like.
What else do you think that we should know about, what you saw? There's obviously a lot going on, and you were grokking it, and then there were later sessions. Are there things that you found that would be scary for folks, or things that would be more comforting in terms of what is happening?
I think the scariest thing is the shock that it's already providing to some people who are being exposed to this, but the shock that will come as these things increase out there, if this is what's actually happening, that I think that is going to be the biggest destructive capacity of these things, is the whole shock that we are not alone, that there are other things that maybe care for the planet, maybe care for us on some level that's difficult to understand. And I think that might lead to some chaos out there. This is kind of by definition catastrophic disclosure, when the skies become full of all kinds of things you can't identify. I don't think we need to be afraid of it. I think we need to be more afraid of each other, and maybe even afraid of some kind of disinformation campaigns that may arise out of this. We've already seen a tremendous amount of gaslighting on, at the hands of the government, which I think is really wrestling with this, to be fair.
Yeah,
this is tough. This is tough. And how can you possibly come out right now and say we are not alone and those things are actually non-human?
And we have no ability to control it and can't even really explain it. Yeah.
Exactly. When they're coming down, hundreds of feet over people's homes right now in New Jersey and in other states at this point, how can you possibly go public with that in this way? And I think I got the sense that they're hoping this is going to die down, and they're going to, they're taking a step back, trying to figure it out, but it's clearly ramping up. It hasn't stopped. Seems to be getting more in your face. And so they may have some super hard decisions to make, but I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen, because I did get when I started looking at what's going to happen next. That isn't in my online session yet, but it's in the one I'm going to post soon. That what's going to happen next, I get this whole idea of disinformation, a lack of real information, people being told things that aren't entirely true, but on the back end of that, it's really a reaction to, trying to figure out how best to manage, not just the American people, but the people of the world, because this is a huge and scary subject, probably for most people out there. But I think we're up to it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's going to be a shock, and it's going to change the way we view our power structures. And I mean, judging from what you're saying that they are concerned about with us, that may be what their intent is. And so that is going to be a problem for people who are in power. And how do they deal with that? I mean, it's like they have to weigh whether keeping power for themselves or the current, financial governmental elites is the most important thing, or, being flexible in this new environment is going to be the most important thing. And for the people, it seems pretty obvious, but I mean, governments are in the business of keeping order. And so that's how they weigh their priorities, and that's only natural. I'm worried about as we go ahead, because we're obviously facing the change of an administration, and I wonder if that's partly what's motivating this action now, because if they've seen that a certain element of human society is getting even more entrenched in the power positions, and so they are like, this is the only way that we're going to affect any kind of change. Not to be political, but that's some of the concerns that I've sort of had and thoughts I've had.
Yeah, I definitely got a sense of an interest in our political structure. Absolutely, that came up. It was a really unusual interest in it too, that they were watching trends, that they had this knowledge of trends going, or just like everything, not just trends, but like everything that's ever happened. And there's a sense that they had a sense of future things too. I mean, heck, we can remote view the future. So whatever they are, they're aware of. Time to them is so much broader than our quick passing moments of time. They see time in these huger chunks that go back to the past and back into the future. That came across.
Like a cyclic kind of thing.
Yeah, like a cyclic thing. Definitely cyclic. Really interesting. And they definitely had an interest in the power structure. And I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen, especially like you mentioned, the change of administration, two very different kinds of administrations. And I think that the current administration, because they're wrapping things up, they're having a hard time dealing with this. And then the new administration, I'm not really sure what to expect. We have President-elect Trump coming out and saying, shoot them down. And maybe that's where we get the skirmishes in the sky that others are predicting, that I saw in the sessions. That may be where that comes from.
It's all, it's like, are we actually here? I mean, I kind of want to pinch myself. And I mean, if this is actually happening, this is what we've been talking about for years, you for decades. And I don't know where it leads. And it's scary, but it's also exciting. And I don't want to, it's like, it could be potentially catastrophic for, humanity. But then I'm also finding myself looking forward to it in a way. And maybe that's just the nature of where we're at. But how are you handling this and thinking about this, having been a student of ufology for so long, and then also having this, capability of tapping into sort of the deeper structures of reality? What are your thoughts in this historic moment?
Okay, this is one of the reasons that I was so unsettled doing this session, so unsettled. And it wasn't just the nature of what I was picking up, but because it's so real, and I knew this is like real time, this is right now. It's one thing to remote view a crash from 1947 in New Mexico. It's one thing. Oh, it's way in the past. Of course there are aliens. Of course we're not alone. It's one thing to have even seen a UFO and, one small moment in time, but to have such a large scale happening and unfolding and increasing was literally an ontological shock for me. And if it's an ontological shock for me, who has been into this for 50 years, I can't imagine what it would be like to somebody who hasn't been paying attention to this subject. And for good reason. There's lots of other things to pay attention to on the planet. And so I think that a lot of people are going to have a very hard time going forward, and they'll be looking for answers. And hopefully our government will be able to provide some kind of truths to the American public and to the world at large. Fingers crossed anyway. But I think that they've known that something was coming for a while. I think that that's why the whole disclosure process started really in earnest in 2017 with the New York Times articles. Lou Elizondo, director of ATIP, coming out to the public and talking about his experiences. And then the Navy pilots, it's been snowballing and been, of course, a topic of conversation in the congressional halls and hearings and everything. I think that this is snowballing. And I think it's because they knew something was going to happen. And maybe this is what they knew was going to happen, or at least the beginning of it, a part of it.
Yeah, and I think that the incremental sort of release of information was meant to prepare us as much as possible.
Yes.
You mentioned your own ontological shock. I wanted to ask you sort of a personal question about this process and everything else. I mean, to be exposed to levels of reality that aren't typical, and then also like the intellectual the thinking of possibly an alien intelligence. Can you talk a little bit about how that impacts you personally? Is there any risk to that? I remember reading early on with some folks who had done some remote viewing. Project 8200 was one that was mentioned, and the guy was like, it can potentially be dangerous for folks to remote view these things because it can, you can get noticed by non-human intelligences and bad things can happen. Do you find that that's the case, and how do you protect yourself if that is the case? And then with like students who are remote viewing this, is there a risk to them for looking into this thing? How do you weigh that, and how do you view that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's kind of a hot topic in remote viewing for sure. And people fall on one side or the other of that question, whether you should or even shouldn't be looking at these kinds of things. But it's my feeling and my experience over just about 30 years that we're already connected to everything already. That's why we can do this. It's a non-local universe. It's already a part of us. Whatever these things are, they're already there. They're probably interacting with us all the time, but we don't even realize it because, we have all kinds of filters in place that can be hard to push through. And, learning remote viewing teaches you to open that aperture and to have more of these experiences. And in all this time, and in the hundreds, if not thousands, of non-human things I've looked at, I've never had an experience that followed me home, so to speak, or that bothered me after the fact. Now, I've had plenty of experiences while doing a session that I didn't like. I didn't like that alien or that one or this situation, some of the abduction accounts, things like that. Looking at that can be a little scary. And in the moment, it's scary, but it's just like remote viewing a scene from World War II. It's that kind of a feeling. You're unhappy with something. You can take on the emotions of the people that are there, or the non-human intelligence if it has emotions it can also feel. But I don't think that it's dangerous. I truly don't. I think that it's important that people who are interested in remote viewing have a comfort level with, they can pick and choose what they want, the kinds of things they want to remote view. Work with a trainer that has the same kind of perspective that you do on this. And I did let my students know before class began that we were going to perhaps be looking at something, one or two things that may be non-human. We also did a crop circle session, which was fascinating.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And they were all shocked by what they got and a little unsettled too, but they were fine.
I mean, part of me is like, if I had your ability and this kind of thing was going on, I would almost be like constantly doing it, right? Or at least constantly collating. Like I would take my stuff and I'd compare it with what other remote viewers are doing. Is that conversation happening among sort of the prominent remote viewers? And is that sort of global picture of what everyone's finding sort of fitting together in any interesting ways that you can share with us that maybe weren't revealed by your own personal work but seem to fit?
Yeah, there's been a number of other remote viewers who are looking at this as well and who also have predicted various things about it. The group at Farsight had done some sessions before this began and said there was going to be a huge non-human intelligence presence on Earth that was going to start making itself known. So they were definitely picking up on what's happening in their descriptions. And others are starting to look at it now. And of course, within my group, I have like about 100 viewers now in my group. And everyone's talking about this, and I'm going to start tasking people on different aspects of it so we can figure out the particulars of what's happening, what this is, and how might we respond.
Which just seems like what would be the most valuable thing, is to have a collated picture from a number of inputs. And like we kid ourselves that the U.S. government stopped remote viewing in the 90s or whatever else. I'm sure they've been doing this for a while, and they have that sort of data set, which is informing a lot of what they're doing. But
I'm absolutely certain of that. That they've got their best and brightest working on this right now, and probably have been for quite some time.
So I guess, to sort of round up this discussion, what would you say people can do in their own lives to help prepare them for this? Or, how should they be thinking about this as we move into what might be a very chaotic future? Is there anything that people can do to kind of control the chaos in their own lives rather than contributing to the, whatever hysteria might arise, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think that it's easy to get obsessed with this topic. I'm obsessed.
Yeah, as am I.
But it's important to take time to spend time with friends and with family. Get outside. Grounding is so important on this planet. Get outside and enjoy nature. Spend some time in the great outdoors, completely disconnected from technology. And I think that that'll give you a better perspective on what's happening. And I think it's important to keep in mind that whatever this is and whatever all of these presences have been that have interacted with us, they've been with us since the very beginning. They've always been with us, whatever they are. And they've never destroyed us. They've never harmed huge numbers of us. There have been, encounters where people got close to a ship and perhaps got radiation type burns. I mean, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
But there doesn't seem to be, this doesn't seem to be an Independence Day scenario where they're going to float in and take over and start shooting us down. I don't see anything like that happening whatsoever. The message seems to be, wake up, watch, look, we're here. And we're here, you're there, we're all part of this amazing universe. And I think that if people look at it that way, it becomes a little less scary. But I think until, we have all of our religious upbringing, spiritual beliefs, and our cultural conditioning, and getting over those hurdles is going to be the hardest part for everybody, even for somebody like me who's been obsessed with this topic her entire life. Yeah.
Last question, I guess. Do you think that they are looking for some kind of prolonged engagement or joining of our, existences? I mean, is this like going to be a matriculation, or is this just, a declaration that we're here and be aware of us? Or is it like, now that you're aware, we're going to try and sort of live with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not entirely sure. I think that what I'm getting is this is more of a declaration at this time. But it does seem that there is something in play that involves the future. And I'm not sure what that is. I haven't been able to figure that out yet, but I'm working on it, decoding the messages, and I will do future sessions. I'm sure people will give me future things to look at around this topic. So.
And I will link all that in the description, and so people can find your work. And I'd love to have you back again soon to talk more about it as this unfolds. I appreciate your experience and expertise and insight. It's very, very valuable in this moment.
Yeah, thanks, James. Thanks, James. I don't know much, but I had a good time doing this, and I really think that something's happening.
Yeah. Well, I encourage people to watch the video that you've posted. It's a fascinating watch, and then when the next ones come as well, I think that we should all watch those and use that maybe as a way to sort of try and gain some insight into what we're seeing, because I think it's an important part. And I think the U.S. government does too, so.
They sure do.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Birdie. I appreciate you.
Oh, thanks, James, so much. I appreciate you too. Thank you.
Good talking to you.
Brought to you in part by listeners like you.
Welcome back to Neon Galactic, a podcast produced by Key TV in Northern California. I'm your host, James Falk. Thanks for joining us. Whatever you think about UFOs, NHI, government secrecy, and all the rest, the situation now unfolding in New Jersey, New York, over American bases and airports, and increasingly all around the country and world, where what seems like drones and orbs are being sighted with haunting regularity by virtually everyone, it's worrisome in the extreme. Information from state and federal authorities who spend billions every year to stay ahead of the technological curve on defense and surveillance has not been forthcoming. The only admission they seem willing to make is one of ignorance. They don't know what's bugging our homes, neighborhoods, sensitive military sites, and more, or so they claim. The drones themselves seem to evade capture, maneuver around our best tech, go dark when followed, and tease us with their obviousness and ubiquity. There are a lot of these things, and they're very clearly in control of the situation. My guest today, Bertie Jaworski, has been on the show before. To get a sense of her background and history, I recommend folks watch that interview, which will be linked in the description. It's absolutely worthwhile. She has a fascinating story and is an expert in remote viewing, the method developed by psychics, academics, and U.S. military and intelligence services to gather information in non-traditional ways. It's a kind of clairvoyance many claim is available to almost anyone. Jaworski has taken those initial protocols and redesigned them into what she says is a more neutral and effective modality called transdimensional mapping. Earlier this month, she used her skills to examine the drone situation, then posted the results on her YouTube channel, linked in the description. Since then, some of her claims, including very particular details, have been confirmed by pilot sightings and other information. We're going to talk about what she saw, how it apparently deeply unsettled her, and what she makes of what's now unfolding. Welcome back to the show, Bertie.
Thanks for having me on again, James. I'm very excited to talk about what's happening today.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably like me and like a lot of other folks have been absolutely riveted to social media, kind of watching this situation unfold. It was a week ago now, or maybe a little bit less, that I stumbled upon your video, and it was fascinating to watch the process by which you work. I mean, the camera was focused on the drawings, but I saw your hands involved and profile of your face, and it seemed like I got a glimpse of some magic there, which was cool. But the information you came up with was, as you said, I think, sort of unsettling and different than what people would have thought if they were just going to sit back and diagnose some sort of, non-human participation in this whole thing. So I want to talk a little bit about that. But first I was hoping to get from you how you got tasked with this particular thing. And were you told to survey the orbs, or were you told, or the drones, or were you told to kind of something more general that just sort of ended up being that? How did that come about?
A friend of mine who is also a remote viewer and who works with me gave me a task. And a task is something that you are going to remote view. And I did this session blind, meaning I didn't know what I was going to be looking at. I was only given a set of 8 random numbers, 2 sets of 4 random numbers that they had associated with one of the photographs that were taken of these mysterious objects in the sky. And this photograph was taken by somebody in New Jersey, one of those many photos that has appeared on the news since this whole situation has begun. And so I didn't know what it was going to be. I started working and I did about 45 minutes to start. I normally do a 2-hour session, but I had to stop because it made me feel completely creeped out. I ended up completing the session over the next 2 days, and it was after that point that it was revealed what it is to me. But by then I kind of knew what it was, or at least suspected. So, and I'm going to be sharing the rest of the session online.
You know where your business would be without you. Imagine where it could go with more of you. Well, with Wix, you can create a website with more of your vision, your voice, your expertise. Wix gives you the freedom to truly own your brand and do it on your own, with full customization and advanced AI tools that help turn your ideas into reality. Scale up without being held back by cookie-cutter solutions and grow your business into your online brand. Because without you, your business is just business as usual. Take control. Go to Wix.com.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability, ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Welcome to Total Disclosure across all platforms, where we explore the mysteries of the unknown, from sightings to conspiracy theories. We dive deep into the unexplained occurrences in our skies. If you're passionate about exploring the unknown and are intrigued by the possibility of non-human intelligence, then you're in the right place. Don't forget to smash that like button, share with your friends, your family, the Greys, just not with the CIA. All right, subscribe, stay up to date, click the bell so you don't miss any podcasts or videos that we have to offer. We have a bunch of cool little segments coming out from the UAP hearing that was on November 13th. Oddly enough, tonight we were supposed to have Kristen Newton on the show. She came down with a bit of a sickness, so I called a good friend of mine and asked him to come on the show for about the 100th time over the course of the time Public Disclosure existed. I also had the pleasure of meeting him in person for the first time on November 13th at those UAP hearings, and we were part of a closed-door meeting with Rob Salas and Nancy Mason. Mr. Steven. All right, Steve. Welcome back.
Steve to my friends. Yes,
Yes.
Tyler, hi. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, so listen, I wanted to start this off because as great as the things that you and I have been working on together, the November 13th hearings, everything that happened, all that went away super quickly. And all that people are talking about right now is these drone swarms. Now, I just want to get your intake on that before we dive into the real subject and real disclosure efforts. What's going on?
Well, to be sure, the developments from the hearings on the 13th and 19th haven't gone away. They're out there, and where they're out there is media coverage. As you know, I have a print media archive, and I'm logging in the articles, and there have been dozens and dozens of articles, and those are not going away. But obviously, there's a whole lot else happening in the world in the U.S. right now. So we go with the flow. But in our world, in the ET issue, things are happening as well. And I've been watching the drone thing kind of slowly unfold. There's always been things like that happening, the odd sighting here, there, whatever. They turn up online. I don't spend a lot of time with that. ETs have been proven, they're here, non-human tech, whatever the hell you want to call them. My job is not to prove it, it's already proven. My job is to help get confirmation from our president, which is what opens everything. But there's something that has emerged now that's gone on for several years that is now really requires some attention and analysis. And it is being referred to, it's always got to be named, drone swarms. We call them drone swarms. Now, drones are amazing. They continue to get more amazing all the time. You may have seen recently a display, drone display. There was some during the holidays, and it might be. I think it was in China. Several thousand drones were launched, operating on GPS, right? Technology that allows them to be precisely positioned, and they're creating amazing displays in the sky, changing and forming. Now it's not like a hologram. It's essentially they're acting like pixels of light, and yet there are thousands of them working in pure concert. I have to assume the wind conditions were absolutely zero. I can't imagine doing this in wind, but they're impressive. Okay, good, we get it. The drones that are being referred to here are essentially non-piloted craft. If there's a pilot, it's not a drone. It's real simple. It can have an entity or a person controlling it from afar, or it can be pre-programmed to fly without a third-party person, individual directing it. But if there's no pilot in it, it's a drone. Okay, so that's straightforward. So what is unusual about what's happening and why it may be a big deal is that not simply because people are paying attention, because video of everything now can get put on the net instantly and spread. something's going on, somebody's filming it, it's turning up somewhere. Great. Usually isolated stuff, nothing profound, but images and video of these swarms have been making their way into the public domain, going back a number of years. It's one of the earliest examples of the phenomena that we are talking about tonight. Were swarms of drones are on ships. It's a destroyer. And it came up, it turned up, people visit, what's going on, the usual confusion, government saying that it's stuff, and it could be fake, and so forth. All right. Noted it, moved on. There were other matters to attend to. But then more events started happening. As we get closer, they seem to be spreading. Drone swarms, not just about ships, but around bases, military bases, other sensitive facilities. And the reason, and the government has admitted it, right? There's these swarms. Now you might be saying, well, why on earth would the government do that? Well, we're not talking, this is a new time. And so if something is swarming around a base, unless that base is in the middle of the desert, there's other communities around it. There are people living near it, and everybody's got cameras, and they film everything they see. And so these swarms have been filmed by citizens, and so naturally that gets up in the net. And what are you going to do? Well, the government does the best it can. In this case, the best it can is we don't know what they are. Right? Wow. So let's. I started thinking about that. We're going, wait a minute. Let's just apply some basic logic to this, and where does that basic logic take us? And I recently, to this morning, it's interesting that you got in touch with me, I posted to my Twitter account, please follow and join, paradigmresearchgroup.org, and it was at Steve Bassett. And I posted a rather lengthy post. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you the post because it says much more concisely what I can freelance to you right now. So I think this will be pretty easy to follow. People will get it. Here's what I posted this morning. All right. Here is a suggested logic train regarding a recent phenomena. 1. Those with a need to know within the U.S. government have known about a technological non-human presence in our world for decades. I think that's absolutely proven fact. 2. Devices of either human or non-human origin referred to as drones are swarming U.S. military ships, bases, and other sensitive areas. That is fact. 3. This is not permitted, and such objects, if known to be of human origin, would be shot down or captured. That, I believe, is absolutely true. Certainly happy to discuss it. And number 4, let me finish the whole thing. The destruction or capturing of these objects is not being reported. That is true, right? Number 5, therefore, the objects are of non-human origin, and aggressive action toward them is either viewed as dangerous or useless. Case closed. And then I posted this. Now, this leads to the most important aspect of the phenomena. Why is it happening? And here the logic train has to pause and speculation begins. In that regard, I offer this consideration. The time frame of this extraordinary new development closely corresponds with the passage of 4 pieces of UAP legislation and a series of UAP-related congressional briefings. In other words, the collapse of the truth embargo. If, in fact, this recent phenomenon is connected to the disclosure process, it is worth considering these events are a message from this technological non-human presence. Get it done. And I tagged this rather to Nancy Mace, Tim Burchett, Paulina Luna, Darren Moskowitz, Jamie Raskin, Grothman, Mark Warner, Senator Schumer, Marco Rubio, Senator Gillibrand, Mike Rounds, Eric Burleson, Representative Ogles, and Journey Ernst, Representative Garcia, Representative Carson, and Representative AOC, because I follow them all, and I wanted that to turn up in their notifications box.
Yes.
So now you see my thinking on this.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years, and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Welcome to the Make It Jingle with Chris Kringle podcast. Today we're talking to Jan from Toyota all about Toyota.
Hi!
So, Jan, got any red Tacomas?
Yeah, we have a great selection of vehicles, including Tacomas.
I can tell I'm taking a message down to Florida to go somewhere.
Did you say Florida? Can we also go to?
Dealer in the Toyota area. Offers are subject to change throughout Toyota's Dominant Days on January 6th. See your participating Toyota dealer for details. Toyota, let's go places.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I just wanted to say that. Oh, why is my camera on? So I just wanted to say that anyone. So I have commercial drones, and if you get into say you're flying your drone and you come into contact with any restricted airspace, any at all, the drone takes itself over and returns to sender. So any commercial drone will not be able to fly into restricted airspaces of any kind, whether it's just restricted as for an airport or a military base or this or that government research facility. So the ones that are being seen around bases and ships, those are the ones that I find to be the most compelling.
Well, of course, the drone has to be programmed to respond to certain texts that are connected to these spaces, which literally trigger that response. Now, you could take that out of the software, so it wouldn't do that. Let me give you an example. About 6 or 7 years ago, somebody was having some fun with a drone here in DC, and it got away from them, right? And it flew over the White House. That person was arrested. He was able to explain this was an accident and so forth. All right. Now this is just a little drone. Let's be clear. If you go and read the reports, and I have the articles up on my website, researchgroup.org, go to the Print Media Archive under Resources. They are being described by the people shooting the film as of different sizes, small up to the size of a car. Right? I assure you, a commercial drone the size of a car would be very, very expensive. And the bigger the drone, the more of a problem you would have. Fly a drone the size of a car over the White House, my friend, you're going to be charged with a serious crime. If you don't have a damn good lawyer, you're going to jail for a number of years. And so, again, there is a fundamental logic to this that leads to the conclusion that I'm talking about until we know more. Now, a video did turn up, which I have not been able to analyze. I mean, I don't analyze this stuff. It hasn't been analyzed or taken apart too much, but it purports to show an attempt to shoot these things down to no avail. Again, these days, what do you say to that? Other than there's a logic to it. Because if they could shoot them down, they would. And if it's pointless, they're not going to do it. They're not going to be firing stuff all over the place out of say, a base, right? Knowing that they can't hit them and have the shells, landing somewhere in the community, landing in somebody's barbecue. So again, that's logical, but is that valid? I don't know. But something profound is going on, and it's not just going on here. It's happening in the UK. It may be happening in dozens of nations. If it's happening in China or Russia, I think it's fair to say they're not going to talk about it. You're not going to get film on that on Twitter, and that's being held. And if it's true, if that should leak out, that like China, Russia, other countries that we haven't heard from yet are getting the same phenomenon, then you've got something along the lines of what happened in the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, one of the greats of all time. And there was a moment when everybody in the world was hearing a tone, right? Or at least huge portions of the world were hearing the same tone and they were reacting to it. Now, that was very benignish. This is not. But again, they're not attacking the base. They're not destroying the ship. And let me be clear. If anybody that's paying attention to the Ukraine war knows that the vast majority of hardware, tanks, and motorized vehicles that are being destroyed in that war are being destroyed by drones. Drones. Yep.
Yep.
You know, they're militarized drones with explosives. And so a couple of drones like that could sink $1 billion destroyer, right? And so the idea that they're just, well, you know, they're not doing anything, let's just film them. Yeah, let's don't talk about this. Please, folks, don't insult our intelligence. And so something big is going on. And if it in fact is the case that the ETs are going out of their way now, not to mention just drone swarms. You've got sightings all over the damn place. People are filming and filming and filming faster than I think people can concoct, and AI could be helping some of this. But overall, the sense is something is heading somewhere. There is a huge buildup of engagement. Why? I would speculate that the ETs are either anticipating that we're just about to end the truth embargo and the world is about to learn formally, finally, that they've got company, or they are tired of waiting and for one reason or another, they're trying to goose the process. That's just a thought I'm putting in.
Whoa. Now, what I find to be, I don't know if I am drawing conclusions here, but I find it very, very peculiar that after the hearings on November 13th, you and I, we took that closed door meeting with Nancy Mace. Obviously, the military angle, the nuclear angle, that was on full display. And then all of a sudden, drones are swarming, let's say swarming. Bases. Yeah, they're showing up everywhere. And flying with impunity, right? Seemingly.
But this has been going on for years. I mean, it's been going on for years. So I wouldn't want to associate a special connection there. They've been going on for some time. But look, I don't know how closely the ETs monitor what's going on. I don't think they're reading my Twitter posts, but the fact is that one of the most significant developments is 60 years after the events took place. Actually, it's 55 years after the events took place, in which our ICBM missiles were shut down in the presence of a UAP, UFO, ET, whatever you want to call it. And 30 years after some of the officers present firsthand when it took place, finally, the Congress is looking at this seriously, finally. And you might say, my God, what could be more important than nuclear missiles being shut down for reasons that are not connected to a human source? Why hasn't this been all over the place? Good question. And the answer is actually not complicated. There's been a lot of things that have happened regarding this phenomena over the years, right? And witnesses have come forward, documents have turned up, and this and that and everything else. And all of it was irritating to the Department of Defense, irritating to the managers of the truth embargo. But overall, they obviously were able to deal with it. Right. If they hadn't, we wouldn't still have a truth embargo to this day. But there is one set of events and one set of witnesses that pose the greatest challenge to the truth embargo and always have. And that is the SAC-based commanders and others who were present to the tampering of our nuclear weapon systems, the shutting down of our ICBMs, interfering and intercepting dummy warheads at 8,000 miles an hour, filmed by an Air Force officer who came forward and so forth. These witnesses are extraordinarily challenging. And so the DoD, Department of Defense, had a real problem with respect to those witnesses. And so how is it that we haven't heard? Here's the best answer I can give you. I know some of these people. I've talked to the lead witness, the person who has kept this going, and that, of course, is Robert Salas. I've read the fundamental book, UFOs and Nukes by Robert Hastings, and seen the doc and so forth. And I can say that they haven't been threatened in any way that's really serious. Bob Salas came forward in 1994 because after holding on to it for nearly 30 years, the vast majority of the many hundreds, if not a couple thousand people that have been, hundreds that have been witness to firsthand shutdowns are not coming forward. They were probably told, absolutely don't do this. But the early cases, Well, the Air Force was, kind of, I guess, caught off guard.
Right.
The Air Force did do things like assign all of the security guys to the 4 parts of the earth, right? Just get them all separated. But what are they going to do? Well, the SAC base officers were honoring their NDAs, and so they weren't saying anything. And then eventually, as if there were any shutdowns later on, after the mid-60s, the Air Force was ready, moving, boom, bam, bada, boom, nothing. Okay, so how many shutdowns we've had, we don't know. But Robert Salas in 1994, God bless him,
God bless him.
filed an FOIA, or in that period, maybe prior to 94, he filed a FOIA request to the Air Force looking for information regarding that time frame and things happening in that time frame without mentioning UFO, without mentioning UAP. And what he got back, being that he was there, confirmed what happened to him happened without actually saying it. And so he viewed that as essentially freeing him up from his NDA. Not that that was clear. It wasn't. But
Ho! Welcome to the Make It Jingle with Chris Kringle podcast. Today we're talking to Jan from Toyota, all about Toyotathon.
Hi!
So, Jan, got any red Tacomas?
Yeah, we have a great selection of vehicles, including Tacomas.
After my big job, I'm taking the missus down to Florida to go surfing.
Did you say Florida? Can the elves and I go too?
Dealer inventory may vary. Offers are subject to change throughout Toyotathon, which ends on January 6th. See your participating Toyota dealer for details. Toyota, let's go places.
Recetas, copagos, pruebas de laboratorio, incluso con seguro. La atención médica puede costar miles de dólares cada año, pero no para mí, porque estoy inscrito en la atención médica de VA. Obtén lo que ganaste. Visita choose.va.gov. No todos los veteranos son elegibles para el tipo o la cantidad de beneficios que se muestran aquí.
he felt it would, and off he goes, and he comes forward, waiting for the Air Force to show up. They didn't, right? Now, again, this is 94. We're starting to move forward. Lots happening in the early 90s. We could go into that, but or so with Stephen Schiff and Roswell and everything else that's going on in that period. They didn't stop him. And so off Bob goes, and for the next 30 years, he is leading a group of people that want to testify. How is it that they haven't been able to? And the answer that I give them is the Department of Defense could not, they had limited options dealing with these sacrifices. Whether it's Schindele or Jameson or Salas or Beagle or whatever, what do? You can kill them. Problem solved. You could destroy them reputational wise, disgrace them, and stuff. Yeah, problem solved, right? They can disappear, right? In other words, you could put them into detention, put them in a concentration camp somewhere, okay? Or you could buy them off, right? Come in and just give them lots of stuff, be quiet. All of those were not going to work, right? Because if you started killing off SAC-based officers like that, it would cause a catastrophic reaction to the aircraft. It would be a mutiny. It would just be, it would be catastrophic. They didn't do it, right? Trying to buy them off, these guys are on other people. They would have probably gone to the press and shown them the offer, okay? So what did they do? And this is something that people need to pay close attention to. They ghosted them.
Yes.
All right. And what do I mean by ghosted? A lot of people know what that is. A lot of people don't. You just pretend they don't exist. You don't talk about it. You don't respond to it. You don't respond to them. You just don't exist. And so if the press calls up somebody, asks a question about, I don't know what you're talking about. You know about Bob Salas? I've never heard. Whatever. They just froze. Nothing. Not going to do anything. And the media went along with it. Okay? And as long as the media were willing to go along with that, not press, which would require investigative journalism, which the media is not done, deliberately not done, as part of the truth embargo, I should say, then you get by. And they've gotten by for 30 years in spite of a major documentary, a major book by Hastings, 3 more books by Bob Salas, a press conference in 2010 in the National Press Club, another press conference with media attending in the National Press Club 2019, okay, other articles turning up here and there. They've managed to not have to deal with it until now. Finally. The work of Bob Salas and you and me and others, the nuclear witness testimony is now in the House, all right?
It's coming.
First of all, in the 2019 press conference, Bob Salas arrived with a set of witness statements and affidavits from about 11 or 12 individuals. A couple of them were not related to shutdowns or nuclear tampering, and so I pulled those out. And I delivered a hard copy set, 2 hard copy sets, to every of the appropriate members of the House subcommittee, oversight subcommittee. One was submitted by hand, walked in the office, right? The other one was mailed in to a particular staffer.
Mhm.
So you have 2 coming in 2 different directions. And I also included on I sent in and emailed in a file
Right.
copy. So there's 3 versions of this affidavit witness statement set in 10 offices. Then I distributed the hard copy to all 17 offices of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and then sent in a electronic file of those same documents to individuals in the House Intel offices, along with links to, right, the book, documentary, some articles about Bob, and their full 3-hour testimony in 2013, which included Jameson, Shindeli, and Salas, and some other witnesses.
A bunch of great witnesses. John Callahan, I believe, from the FAA, right?
Well, that was in the FAA. I mean, it was the citizen hearing disclosure. There were 42 witnesses from 10 countries, and they were in 8 different sets, right? 10 different sets over 5 days. But the set, there was a 3-hour set that was for nuclear weapons tampering. Okay. And all that testimony was sent to them. The links to all that testimony is now in the offices of 27 members of the House and Senate, not just any 27, but those that have been engaging in this issue. And as it happens, because you were able to get a meeting with Nancy Mace, you made the decision, Bob, come along because he was in town for the hearing, and then decided probably Steve should come along. We were able to sit down with her, and I can talk about this because that video is out there, right? I asked if there was nothing out there, I would not be talking about it as a matter of courtesy, the way you deal with members of Congress, because it is to say this.
Right, and you're there when she said that, like, she never, not once did she say, cut that out, cut this out.
But even if she hadn't said, if you go and meet with a member, they agree to talk to you, right? You can go on and go right to the press and say everything, but they're not going to talk to you again. In other words, there's certain protocols. But once that video is out, protocol, no problem. And so it is out there on the web and in the interview, which is out there on the web. She says, I would love to have the nuclear witnesses testify. And I can assure you, everybody on the Intel Committee has seen that statement from her. And so the next hearing, barring some dramatic shift, the next hearing is going to include nuclear weapons shutdown witnesses. And there's enough, I think we could easily get 6 or 7 together, most of which would be SAC-based officers. So that hearing, that's a ball game. Now, look, I think that just a hearing of the nuclear weapons witnesses might not force disclosure from, I say force, trigger disclosure from the president, but he could. But certainly if they were part of a 20 witness set testifying in a committee for a week, that would do it. And I'm starting to change my view about this as well. Namely, I felt that a Senate hearing was what was needed. It had to be a Senate Intel Committee hearing, 20 witnesses, perhaps even the Senate Armed Services Committee. But I'm beginning to think that if the House Oversight Subcommittee held that major hearing, not a half a day, a week, right, which they could do, as long as the chairman of that committee agrees. Nancy Mason, they can put it together. If they were to hold, that would also set the president, and maybe only one serious hearing a day long for nuclear shutdown witnesses would do the trick. And so we are closing in, but we are also in the middle of a massive political I don't know how to describe it. It's like we're in a political washing machine right now. the people's careers are on the line. Though people have been elected or not elected, that's resolved. But there is just a huge amount of developments that are breaking that have great consequences. And so it's not likely, highly unlikely, that a hearing of any kind, other than maybe bringing one person up for a quick meeting like Gillibrand tends to do, between now and the end of the year. And then after the new Congress takes over, well, that's kind of a change, a sea change. Everybody kind of knows who their assignments are. Could they hold one in January? Probably not, because there's only 17 days from the new Congress to the inauguration. So that puts us into the next administration. That puts us into early February. At that point, the Republicans control the House and the Senate and the White House. They can do anything they want, and the members of Congress that are leading the disclosure process right now are majority Republicans, conservative Republicans. And so I see that coming together very quickly. There is no reason that the new president is going to shy from this issue. He's already spoken to it, not in depth. He said he would address it, etc. And so I am anticipating a major hearing and disclosure either in February, late February, or early March. I cannot wait for that hearing, which I think will happen first, and Bob Salas being at that table, and I will be in that room, whatever it takes. And that's going to be a major day in the history of the country.
You know, I'll be there with you, man. And after Bob and say a few of the others testify, do you think that Congress can look past this any further? I mean, the nuclear implication is so devastatingly